All right, it's 2 p.m., so let's go ahead and get started. This is the state expedited accusations calendar. This calendar is for those individuals who have been recently arrested, but the cases have already been formally accused and bound over to state court. All defendants, you have an absolute right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You also have a right to an attorney at this proceeding today. When I ask you if you understand your rights, those are the rights I'm referring to. All participants, this particular proceeding is being broadcast over the internet as a live stream. It is also being recorded. That means any member of the public can log on and watch this particular proceeding. Those who receive a signature bond will be reset further notice. Those who receive a surety or cash bond, Ms. Bridgewater, what is my reset date?
January the 3rd, 2023.
All right, those who receive a surety or a cash bond will be reset to the state all-purpose calendar on January the 3rd of 2023. All right, who do we have first?
Good afternoon, Judge. This is going to be position 8, Mr. Parks.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Parks. Your case is 22 CR 008439Y. In this case, you're charged with 1 count of battery and 4 counts of terroristic threats, each with the offense date of December 19th. You understand your rights?
Yeah, I understand.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, can I have the history?
6 total. Last was 2014, misdemeanor possession of marijuana. He got a PTR for that. 2014 probation out of Douglas County. It was not prosecuted. 2013 probation, not prosecuted. 2012 misdemeanor possession of marijuana. That was later on dismissed. And the theft by taking conviction. From 2011, he got a Douglas County hold.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see what this one for. It's a contempt of court.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ms. Sowry, is it your case?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Please proceed.
Your Honor, this incident took place at 4175 Boulder Ridge Drive in Atlanta. Officers responded to the incident location regarding a fight call. One of the victims in this case, whose name is Johnny Effinger, that's Effinger, he stated that the defendant attacked him for, quote, looking at him crazy. So the defendant punched the victim several times in his face. He did sustain a mark to his left eye and a busted lip. Then the defendant went on to threaten to shoot up the place. And these statements were corroborated by independent witnesses that were standing near. Your Honor, as we've heard from pretrial regarding the history, this defendant does present a risk of reoffending. And due to the nature of this case and the seriousness of the threats that were made, the state's recommendation is an $11,000 surety bond. That's $3,000 on the battery, $2,000 on each terroristic threat, a stay away if he is no longer employed, and no contact with the victims. That's Johnny Effinger, Kendrick Stanley, David Briggs, Damian Gale, a 1-day anger awareness, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
All right, thank you. I'm going to sound for the victims at this time. Last name Effinger, Stanley, or Gale, or any of the other victims allowed to alleged to be involved in this case. All right, hearing none. Is this your case, Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Kim, please proceed.
Yes, he is 29 years old and he has been here in Georgia for about a month. He's from Illinois. He does not have children. He's not married. However, he has a brother and sister here in Georgia. He is gainfully employed. Actually, he was employed as a forklifter about 3 years. However, he believes he is now laid off, probably fired because he has been detained in the jail for a while. He graduated from high school, and Your Honor, The last offense that he had was 2014, which was 8 years ago, and it was not violent at all. So we would like to request for a signature on bond to get out of the Fulton County and go to Douglas County and take care of the matters there too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, defendant is going to receive a $2,500 surety bond. That's $500 on each charge. He's to stay away from the address on Boulder Ridge Drive if he's not employed and have no contact with any of the alleged victims. He's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. Is there anything further?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Parks. Who do we have next?
Position 11, Star.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Starr. Your case is 22 CR 00844 You're charged with simple battery with the offense date of, January the 9th of 2020. Do you understand your rights today? I believe you're saying yes, so we'll go ahead. Mr. Howard has affirmed this is the first arrest, so we'll go straight to Ms. Campbell. Ms. Campbell, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. The facts as alleged are that on the date of January 9th of 2020, at the location of 2047 Stanton Road, which is the Stanton Road package store, this defendant was captured on surveillance video entering the business. At that time, he's seen taking off his jacket and physically attacking the victim, more specifically striking the victim with a closed fist. The victim is actually an employee of the business, and the victim's name is Jose Lopez. 4 other individuals also physically attacked the victim, but per their surveillance video, the officer did notice that this defendant, Dontavius Starr, was the individual who threw the first set of punches. The defendant actually left the scene of the incident, but his work ID from the airport was found on scene. The state's recommendation for bond, in light of the fact that the defendant has no prior history, but the state also does still consider this defendant to be a threat to the community because this was what seemed to be an unprovoked attack on a individual who was just acting within their employment at a package store. The recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Jose Lopez, stay away from the incident location, 2047 Stanton Road, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond. And lastly, anger awareness. Nothing further from the state.
All right, thank you. Who represents this defendant?
Your Honor, Owen Lynch on behalf of Mr. Starr.
Hi, Mr. Lynch, the screen scrambled and now I see you. All right, please give me your recommendation.
Your Honor, we would request a signature bond in this case in light of the fact that he has no violent history or any history at all. We're not opposed to the stay away location. Mr. Starr has stay away order from the incident location. Mr. Starr is 21 years old. He is employed. He does work at the Hartsville. He works at the airport as a wheelchair agent. He's a lifelong resident of Atlanta, and he is presumed innocent in this case. My understanding is that there was an ongoing altercation before he was involved, but that may not be relevant to these proceedings. But we're asking Your Honor is to give him a chance to be released so that he can contest these charges while out on bond. So we would request a signature bond in this case.
Thank you. I'm gonna sound for Mr. Jose Lopez on the chance that Mr. Lopez is here. Mr. Lopez, sounding for Mr. Lopez. All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $4,000 signature bond through the jail. He is to have no contact with the alleged victim in this case and stay away from the package store on Stanton Road. He's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. Is there anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, best of luck to you, Mr. Starr. Who's next?
Position 10, Sanders.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Sanders. Your case is 22 CR 00844 In this case, you're charged with 1 count of battery family violence and 1 count of cruelty to children with the offense date of June the 6th of 2022. You understand your right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I have that this is the first adult arrest. So we will go to Ms. Campbell. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, Your Honor. I have that he had a 2020 arrest for theft, but I didn't see a conviction for that. But I don't have any violent history for this defendant. The facts as alleged are that on the date of June the 6th of this year at the location of 3584 Atlanta Street, which is located in College Park, at approximately 10:30 p.m., the victim, Miss Demisha Giles, and that is spelled Demeisha, Giles, Giles. She was waiting at the bus stop when this defendant, who is also the father of her 1-year-old son, walked up to her, snatched her phone out of her hand, and left. At that time, the victim did go to sit on the front porch of the location that I stated earlier with her 1-year-old son. At that time, the defendant approached her a second time and he began punching her multiple times. The force of the punches were so great that the victim actually ended up dropping their 1-year-old son. And according to the police report, the defendant actually trampled over the 1-year-old son as he was attacking the victim, Miss Demisha Giles. The defendant's grandfather actually had to pull the defendant off of the victim in order for this attack to stop. And the officers did observe swelling to her left cheek upon their arrival. We have had contact with the victim in this matter. She does state that her and the defendant are still in a relationship. They still live together. They share that one child, and that on the date of this incident, the defendant had not been taking his medication. However, since then, she states that he's been taking it and things have improved. However, the state does believe that the allegations set forth today are very serious in light of the fact that the victim was actually holding her infant and she sustained visible injury. So the state does believe that he's a danger to this victim. So the bond recommendation is a $5,000 surety bond, $4,000 on the battery family violence, $1,000 on the cruelty to children, no further contact with Demisha Giles, a stay away from the incident location, anger awareness, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. I'm also asking that this defendant be ordered to take all prescribed medication while he's on bond. And it's my understanding that the victim may be present on the call, so Your Honor may sound for her when appropriate. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. I'm sounding for Ms. Giles at this time. If Ms. Giles is present on the Zoom conference and wishes to be heard, you just need to turn on your camera, but you're not required to make a statement. All right, hearing none, Ms. Kim.
Yes, Mr. Sanders is 18 years old, Your Honor. He just became 18 on November 20, which was less than a month ago. Right now, because he has a disability, he does get disability check and he's qualified for public defender's service. So our office will continuously represent him. Your Honor, this incident happened on June 6th, which is almost about 6.5 months ago. And there has not been any other incidents. We would like to request for a signature on bond so that way he can get out of the jail and continue his employment. And also he is enrolled to finish up his GED. His grandmother, Angela White, I spoke with her and she is willing to co-sign for his bond. She's on the way with a driver's license or government ID and utility bills. So she's ready to take him. We would like to, he's working very hard. He works as a cook at Wendy's. It's been about 3 weeks. Before that, he also worked at Popeyes as well. Your Honor, please give him a signature on bond. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Howard, if I send these signature bonds through pretrial, will he need a co-signer if he's 18?
Yeah, why not?
All right. At this time, defendant will receive a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services, $4,000 on count 1, 1,000 count two. He is to take the 1-day anger awareness course. And he is to have no contact with Ms. Giles at this time and stay away from the incident location on Atlanta Street. He's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And he's to comply with any medication regimes that he is currently engaged in. Is there anything further from either party?
Yes,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor. Can he have a third-party transfer for his child and also one-time law enforcement officer escorted visit to retrieve his personal belongings?
Yes, he can return one time with a member of law enforcement, and he can arrange to see his child by coordinating that with a third party.
Who's
Thank
supposed to
you.
be co-signing?
What's the name of the
Angela
co-signer?
White?
Pretrial.
Angela White.
Yes,
And you said that's his grandmother?
yes.
Okay.
All right. I believe that concludes Mr. Sanders' case. Best of luck to you, Mr. Sanders. What do we have next?
Position 7, Moore.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Moore. Your case is 22 CR 008438A. In this case, you're charged with giving false information on the 20th of December. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Howard.
Counted about 6 total. I got history out of Texas. April 2021. Misdemeanor possession of marijuana appears to be open. 2020 aggravated robbery. That appears to be open as well. 2018 theft of property. 2012 assault with a deadly weapon. That was no bill. He got a fugitive one out of Texas. Also has an arrest out of California. 2018 battery DV. It was lack of sufficient evidence. That's it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Sowery?
Yes, Your Honor. We currently have the warrant for this incident. It took place at 955 DeSoto, that's DESOTO Street, Northwest in Atlanta. While Officer Grissom was conducting an investigation, the defendant was asked for his name and he gave the false name of Dalvin, that's DALVON, last name Daniel. And of course, that isn't his correct name. Once the defendant's name was actually ran, it revealed that he did have an outstanding warrant in another state. Your Honor, as we've heard from pretrial, the defendant does have history in Texas and California, so he does present a risk of flight. We're concerned with his ties to the community and the fact that his arrests have occurred pretty close in time based on the years. So the state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Mr. Moore, he is 28 years old and he has been here in Georgia for about 8 months. And his sister is actually here in Georgia and he is residing with her right now. He completed up to 9th grade and he is actually planning to go back to get GED. And he is self-employed and yet he is not really making a lot of money out of it. So it's almost like him being unemployed for about the last 4 years. So he's qualified for our public defender's service and he does not have any funds to make a bond. I would like to ask for signature on bond for giving a false information. And then maybe he can be transported to Texas where he has an outstanding warrant. Thanks, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, briefly, we actually do have the report. However, I'm not quite sure of the connection regarding the facts. In the report, it states that there was a shooting that an officer was investigating. So we do have reason to believe the false name was given during that investigation. So we would ask for that surety bond. Nothing further.
All right. At this time, defendant will receive, excuse me, a $500 surety bond, and he's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Anything further?
Nope, nothing.
Nothing
from
further,
the
Judge.
defense.
All right, best of luck to you, sir.
Position 6, Miller.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Miller. Your case is 22 CR 008437B. In that case, you're charged with battery with the offense date of April the 29th. Do you understand your rights?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Howard.
They need to get some water, don't you? 11 total. Last arrest was on the 19th of this month for misdemeanor possession of marijuana. 2021 FTA for DUI. June 2021, the original DUI. 2018 DUI. 2018 misdemeanor obstruction conviction. Got a battery conviction, disorderly conduct conviction, 2017. 2016, I got a battery arrest. I didn't look that case up, so I'm not sure of the disposition. 2016 DUI conviction. 2016 disorderly conduct and obstruction conviction. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, and just to perfect the record, the conviction for battery was actually for battery substantial physical harm. And it looks like the conviction took place in 2018. The facts for this particular incident are that on the date of April 29th of this year at the location of 199 Walker Street Southwest, which is the Match Bar and Oven, this defendant had actually been previously advised by the victim in this case. His name is James Hamelberg. Hamelberg is spelled Hamelburg. The defendant was told by Mr. Hamelberg, who actually owns that particular bar, that he could not have any more bottles of free tequila. A few days later, the defendant actually returned to the bar. He ate, he paid for his dinner and his drinks, and he went outside. At that time, he actually began yelling at the victim, Mr. Hamelberg, and inciting Mr. Hamelberg to come outside. When the victim did come outside, the defendant actually punched the victim in the face, and the officers saw bruising on the victim's arms, as well as he had a black eye that was almost closed as a result of being punched by this defendant. An eyewitness does report that the victim in this matter was actually being very calm and peaceful towards the defendant prior to being punched. Also, the defendant sent the victim text messages following this incident, calling the victim a bitch ass. We have had contact with the victim. He is 66 years old, so significantly older than this defendant. The victim states that he was actually just trying to help this defendant out by allowing him to work at the bar for a few days. That did not work out, that work arrangement. And so the defendant was still allowed to have discounts at the bar, but eventually the victim, stopped him from getting the discounts. And that's why the defendant got upset and punched him. The victim has actually filed a TPO against the defendant because he said that he is afraid of him, and that TPO was granted and it was served on the defendant. The victim wants no contact with this defendant, and he wants the defendant to stay away from the incident location. And in light of that prior conviction for a battery substantial physical harm, which was very recently in the last 3 years or so, the state's recommendation for bond is a $6,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, James Hamelberg, stay away from the Match Bar and Oven at 199 Walker Street Southwest, anger awareness, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond.
All right, thank you, Ms. Campbell. I'm going to sound for Mr. Hamelberg at this time. All right, hearing none, Ms. Kim, please proceed.
I do see him on the call. I see James H.
Well, we'll go to Ms. Kim, and if he wants to make a statement, turn on his camera, he can do so. Please proceed, Ms. Kim. We'll come back to you, Mr. Hamelberg. Ms. Kim? Mr. Kim, you're muted. We can't hear you, Ms. Kim.
Ms. Kim,
You are muted.
I
Mr.
apologize. I didn't realize
Okay.
I was. Sorry about that. Mr. Miller is 39 years old and he has been here in Georgia all his life. He's native. He went to Georgia State University, 2 years of college for business administration. And he used to work for Mr. James. However, he is willing to stay away from him. He has no objection to no further contact with him. Indeed, after April 29, 2022, there has not been any contact according to my client. And also, my client claims that he was the one who was harassed. Actually, he said that he was self-defending himself from the attack. Anyway, we are not going to get into the facts of the case. We're going to stick with our bond elements, and he does have he's gainfully employed as a general manager, about 2.5 years of hospitality. He does not qualify for public defender's service, so my representation will end at the end of this bond hearing. I would like to request for a signature on bond, and yet, considering the past histories of his criminal histories, we would like to ask for maximum $1,000 good bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Himmelberg, if you'd like to make a statement, I need you to unmute yourself so I can place you under oath. What the court is most concerned with is whether you wish to have contact with the defendant. So please raise your right hand if you'd like to make a statement. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you hear today will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do, Your Honor.
All right. And again, what I'm most concerned with is whether you want to be in contact with him. What would you like to tell me at this time?
I would not like to be in contact with him in any way, shape, or form, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Anything further from either the state or defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I ask the witness, are you afraid of the defendant?
He said he doesn't want any contact, so I think that's good enough, Ms. Campbell. All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $3,500 surety bond. He's to have absolutely no contact whatsoever with Mr. Himmelberg, and he is to stay away from the address on Walker Street, at least 1,000 yards away from that location, and he's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. Is there anything further from either party?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing.
All right, best of luck to you, sir, and thank you for being here today, Mr. Himmelberg.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, who do we have next?
Position 3, Howard.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Howard. Your case is 22 CR 008433F. This case, you're charged with criminal trespass with the offense date of August the 12th of 2021. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howard.
6 total. Last arrest was December 16th, fleeing an officer. I got an obstruction conviction from 2021 out of Cobb. 2021, simple assault, family violence, obstruction. Case is open. That's 21 CR 002 930F. 2020 aggravated assault DV that was dismissed from what I was told. And his first cycle was a juvie cycle in 2019.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ms. Campbell, please proceed.
Yes, to add to the history, the 2020 ag assault, family violence did involve this same victim at issue in this particular incident, and her name is Jamisha Penn. There is also an open 2021 simple assault family violence and simple battery family violence involving this same victim, Miss Jamisha Penn. Your Honor has actually given the defendant a bond on that case. It's still open. You gave him a $8,500 total good bond back on June 21st of last year. You did order this defendant to have no further contact with Jamisha Penn. You did order him to stay away from the 2400 Campbellton Road address, which is also the incident location of the facts before the court today. As to the facts, yes, Your Honor.
All right, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. As to the facts today, the allegations are that on the date of August the 12th, 2021, so approximately 2 months after Your Honor ordered him to stay away, at the location of 2400 Campbellton Road, apartment Q7 in Atlanta, Georgia, the defendant actually came to this location to see the victim, Miss Jamisha Penn, because he found out that Miss Jamisha Penn had a new boyfriend. The victim states that she was actually in her home with her new male companion. At that time, the defendant punched out her window and came into the home. He was actually yelling at her through the window as well. And when he came inside, the victim actually asked him to leave the location several times. He refused to leave. It wasn't until the victim stated that she was going to call the police that the defendant actually left the location. As Your Honor knows, he has been ordered to stay away from her, and the victim did tell the police that when they arrived on scene. I do believe that this defendant is a severe risk of reoffending. He's a danger to the victim. And so for those reasons, because this is number 3 for him, an ag assault that was dismissed, the open simple assault that he has not even resolved yet. The state's recommendation for bond is a $5,000 cash bond, no further contact with Miss Jamisha Penn, stay away from the incident location, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond, nothing further.
All right, thank you, Ms. Campbell. Ms. Gant, oh, before I go to Ms. Gant, is Ms. Penn on this Zoom conference? Ms. Penn, I'm sounding for you if you'd like to make a statement. All right, Ms. Gant.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. John Howard is 20 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area his entire life. He shares 3 children with Miss Jamisha Penn, the complaining witness. Mr. Howard completed 11th grade. He is now working on his GED, and he's also working on becoming a diesel mechanic. Your Honor, he is unemployed at this time. He last worked in 2021. He strongly denies the allegations. I would just bring to the court's attention that my client was not arrested at the location. This incident is alleged to have occurred back in August of 2021. Again, he is presumed innocent in this and any other open cases. And if I recall correctly, I heard that the aggravated assault case was dismissed. I'm requesting a signature bond on Mr. Howard's behalf. If Your Honor determines that he's ineligible, then I would ask for a more reasonable bond. He does not have the means to pay the state's recommendation $5,000 cash bond. I would ask for a bond of no more than $1,000. We are unopposed to any orders for no contact and to stay away. However, we are requesting third-party transfer so that Mr. Howard may see his children. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Howard, I see you raising your hand. The best thing
And
for you to
Mr.
do,
Howard, I do not want you making any statements at this time.
the best thing to do is call Ms. Gant after this
Yes,
proceeding.
ma'am.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $1,500 cash bond. He is to have no contact whatsoever with the alleged victim, last name Penn, and he is to stay away from the incident location, I believe on Campbellton Road, have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. He will be reset to the SAP calendar on January the 3rd. Is there anything further from either party? And he can visit his children by using a third party to transfer them. Is there anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Best of luck to you, Mr. Howard. Who do we have next?
Position 4, Johnson.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. Your case is 22 CR 008434H. In this case, you're charged with battery, family violence, with the offense date of December the 20th of this year. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Howard.
This is third arrest. Last arrest was ag assault. Firearm used by a convicted felon in the commission of a crime. Those were dismissed. And the other one was the one I told you about before court. The capital offense from 1997, that was a conviction.
All right, thank you. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, Your Honor. The facts are that on the date of December 20th of this year, at approximately 12 a.m. at the location of 1957 Grange Street in Atlanta. This defendant and the victim in this matter, Ms. Tanya Burnett, were having an argument following a date that they had gone on. The defendant actually became very angry over food and drinks, something relating to food and drinks, and he punched the victim in her face 2 times. The officer did observe that the victim had bruising and redness to her eye. We have had contact with the victim. She spoke to our victim advocate today, and she also let us know that the defendant choked her during this incident. And she stated that she's very fearful of this defendant. She stated that for the past 6 months that they have been dating, the defendant has actually choked and pushed her at least 8 times. The victim has also stated to our office that she's called the police on him multiple times, but the police either didn't make an arrest or the defendant left the scene prior to police arrival. The victim let us know that the incident location is her home and that the defendant is actually homeless. So she's been allowing him, I guess, to stay there. She also stated that she's fearful that he may retaliate against her and that she wants no contact. She wants him to stay away from her address, and she is okay with the one-time law enforcement escort for him to pick up his belongings. It is my understanding that he's also contacted her at least 13 times since via telephone from the jail since he was arrested on yesterday. Well, really, he was arrested this around 12 a.m. So since then, we have at least 13 phone calls to the victim. And the victim also stated that on one of those phone calls, the defendant was very aggressive with her and he told her to come get him out. And he asked her what she told the police. So in light of all of this information, the state does believe that there is a risk of witness intimidation. There is a risk of reoffending based on the criminal history, which includes violent convictions. And the state also believes that he's a danger to this victim in light of the serious nature of the facts before the court today. So for those reasons, the state's bond recommendation is a $10,000 surety bond, no further contact with Tanya Burnett, stay away from the location of 1957 Grange Street in Atlanta, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond, and anger awareness. Nothing further from the.
All right, thank you. I'll see Ms. Burnett on the line. Ms. Burnett, if you'd like to make a statement, I need you to turn on your camera so I can put you under oath and hear what you'd like to say. You are not required to make a statement, however. Ms. Burnett, do you wish to make a statement at this time? All right. We're going to assume that she.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. She let our victim advocate know she didn't want to speak, but she would be present.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Ms. Gant, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Antonio Johnson is 45 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area his entire life. He does have family here. He earned a GED and he is currently enrolled at Colorado Tech, where he's studying computer science. He's is seeking a bachelor's degree. He is currently unemployed at this time, Your Honor. He has been out of work for about 3 weeks. His last job was as a warehouse worker. He does not have the means to pay anything toward bond. According to pretrial, my client has very remote convictions for violence, and I would ask that Your Honor take his history into consideration. My client strongly denies the allegations. He states that on this date, both parties were drinking. They got into an argument. She states that she hit him in the head with the pot, and he basically took means to defend himself. My client does not wish to have any contact. Therefore, we do not believe that Mr. Johnson is at risk of intimidating the complaining witness, nor is he a danger to her. And regarding the jail phone calls at this time, Your Honor, my client has not been given a stay away or no contact order. So if those calls occurred and the defense has not had the opportunity to examine them, our position is still that he has not violated or broken any law whatsoever. In closing, again, I am requesting a signature bond. He does not have the means to pay, as I expressed to the court. He also tells me that his mother is 65 years old. She is chronically ill and on a ventilator, and that he is responsible for going to check on her to make sure that he is okay. I am requesting a signature bond on Mr. Johnson's behalf. If Your Honor determines that he's ineligible, then I would ask for a bond of no more than $1,000, and he really can't even pay that. We are unopposed to any stay away and no contact orders, and we would request a one-time law enforcement escort so that Mr. Johnson can retrieve any belongings. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $6,000 surety bond. He's to have absolutely no contact with the alleged victim, last name Burnett, and he must stay away from the address on Grange Street. He can return one time with a member of law enforcement to get any items, and he's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. Is there anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, best of luck to you, sir. What do we have next?
Position 2, Hollis.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Hollis. In this case, 22 CR 008432E. You're charged with 2 counts of cruelty to animals with the offense date of June 27th of this year. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howard?
Fourth arrest. On probation in Cobb, sale of marijuana. 2020, they gave him 4 years for that. Also probation for possession of cocaine. November 2022, they gave him 2 years, 9 months, 10 days probation for that. So he just got the drug stuff, the drug and the firearm.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sowry?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident took place at 855 Juniper Street, Northeast in Atlanta. The defendant was seen by construction workers abusing his dog. That dog's name is Snake, but it's a French bulldog. The workers saw this defendant pick the dog up by its hind legs and slam it against a wall about 3 times, and then he threw the dog on the floor. Your Honor, the defendant then stomped on this dog. One of the construction workers called 911 and provided pictures of the scene that actually showed blood splatter on the balcony wall and the floor. Officers knocked on the door, but did not receive an answer. And on the same day, the defendant, his attorney actually contacted the police and stated that the defendant wanted to cooperate. 2 days later, the defendant took the victim, the dog Snake, to the vet where he was diagnosed with left hind limb and right forward limb lameness. The defendant then surrendered the dog to Animal Services. Your Honor, due to this gruesome nature of this incident, the fact that he's throwing a small dog against a wall and then stomping on it, the state is recommending a $10,000 surety bond. That's $5,000 on each count, no animals whatsoever, and to surrender any animals in his possession. 1-day anger awareness, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
All right.
There's one thing, sorry, do you see the Pennsylvania history? It didn't come back on my
I did
file.
not. I did not see that.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Camp?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Isaiah Hollis is 26 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area since 2008. He does have family here, including his parents and siblings. Mr. Hollis graduated from high school. He also has 2 years of college. He studied computer engineering technology. He is currently employed in transportation services. He has been doing that since February of 2022. Your Honor, these are allegations. My client is presumed innocent. We are denying the allegations today. We did not hear about any prior offenses concerning animals. I am requesting a signature bond on Mr. Hollis's behalf. And if Your Honor determines that he is ineligible, then I would ask for a total bond of no more than $2,000, $1,000 for each offense. We are unopposed to the conditions to have no animals, and Mr. Hollis informs me that he is not in possession possession of any pet or animal at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive a $4,000 surety bond, $2,000 on each charge. Needs to have absolutely no animals whatsoever. And I believe that will conclude our bond recommendations here. Our bond order here. Is there anything further from either party?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Northern
All right.
District, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, best of luck to you, sir. Who do we have next?
Position 1, Flott.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Flott. Your case is 22 CR 0084330E. You're charged with battery in this case with the offense date of July the 2nd. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Howard.
7 total. A 2008 suspended license, conviction, 2010 hit and run, 2011 misdemeanor possession of marijuana, May 2022 misdemeanor possession of marijuana that was dismissed. Another May arrest, possession of drug-related objects. And I see December 16th. I don't know if this is the same arrest. It's battery, DV, and cruise in the first.
It's not the same arrest.
Okay. I know the cruise is a felony, but I don't know why they got it on the GCIC like this. So that appears to be open, Judge. That December 16th. Out of South Fulton. That's the jurisdiction it says.
All right, thank you. Ms. Soury.
Yes, Your Honor, that open case regarding battery, family violence, and cruelty, that's in Clayton County, and that is a different victim from the case that we are discussing today. So this will be a second victim. This incident took place at 3700 North Camp Creek Parkway in Atlanta. The victim, whose name is Jabari, that's Jabari, same last name as the defendant, he was in town visiting his grandfather at the incident location when his uncle asked him to wash dishes. When the victim refused, the defendant punched him in the mouth, and the victim sustained a busted lip, broken brackets from his braces, a swollen eye, and a knot on his head. Your Honor, due to the defendant having that open case, it did occur after this case, so he does present a risk of reoffending. The victim in this case, he is on the line, and if you may sound for him when appropriate, the state's recommendation is a $7,500 surety bond, no contact with the victim. We're not asking for a stay away as this is not the victim's home. 1-day anger awareness, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Okay. I'm going to sound for Jabari Flott if you are present on the line and wish to be heard.
Hey, Your Honor, I'm his mother. He's only 17 years old.
All right. I would need to speak with the victim himself. Is he present?
He is.
All right. And is he willing to make a statement? Does he wish to make a statement?
Or no?
That's not much for me to say.
It's not.
Does she have any questions?
No, well, I guess not.
All right. Thank you. All right, Ms. Gant, please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Mr. John Flott Jr., or the second, is 34 years old. He has been in the Atlanta, Georgia area his entire life. He tells me that he has 1 biological child and 3 stepchildren, ages 3 months, 10, 9, and 5. He is the primary caretaker for 1, 2, 3 of the children. He completed high school. He also has some college in business management. He is currently employed at Safe Light Auto Glass. He has been in that position for about 1 year. Your Honor, my client denies the allegations. He states that Mr. Flott, his nephew, was visiting his father's home, Mr. Flott's father's home at 3700 North Camp Creek Parkway. He states that Mr. Flott was being disrespectful to Mr. Flott Sr. He states that Mr. Jabari Flott actually swung at him, and he was more so defending himself, Your Honor. I did not hear about any convictions for violence for Mr. Flott, and we know that he's presumed innocent in this and any other open cases. This does not involve an allegation for the same witness, or same complaining witness. I am requesting a signature bond on Mr. Flott's behalf. If Your Honor determines that he's ineligible, I would ask for a more reasonable bond, no more than $1,000. We are unopposed to the no contact order, as my client does not wish to have any contact at this time, Your Honor. And if Your Honor orders a surety bond, we are opposed to the 1-day anger awareness class. Thank you.
All right, at this time,
And
defendant
I'm
will receive.
sorry, Your Honor, just very briefly, the incident that is open and this incident, I do believe that may have been less than a week apart. So with these allegations, he is committing violent offenses back to back. So we would ask the court to take that into consideration.
All right, I believe we've heard that, Ms. Towery. At this time, defendant will receive a $6,000 surety bond. He's to have absolutely no contact with the alleged victim, in this case, Jabari Flott, and he's to have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons as a condition. Is there anything further from either party?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you, sir. Does that conclude courtroom 2?
No, we have one more. Position 9, Price.
Price, I see it now. I apologize. All right, Mr. Price, good afternoon. Your case 22 CR 008436A. In this case, you're charged with theft by shoplifting with the offense date of December the 20th. Do you understand your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Howard.
32 total. Last arrest was in Ohio, 2018. It was for escape, and that was a conviction. Before that, 2018, possession of drugs, possession of drug paraphernalia. I see a domestic violence arrest, felony conviction from 2016. This is all Ohio, by the way.
Okay.
I see another 2016 domestic violence conviction. Theft by receiving stolen property, theft without consent, possession of drugs. That was an arrest from 2014. 2011 felony theft conviction. Felony theft by receiving conviction. Breaking and entering conviction. 2010, those same charges. I mean,
That's good.
pretty much
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Howard. Ms. Dowry, I'm sure will fill us in on the rest of the pertinent history. Ms.
I
Dowry,
will.
please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident took place at Publix, located at 595 Piedmont Avenue in Atlanta. Officers responded regarding a shoplifting call. The defendant was seen placing several items in his book bag. When the security guard rung up the total of the items, that came out to be around $130. The defendant did state to officers that the security guard stated to officers that the defendant comes into the store and he steals all the time. Your Honor, as we've heard from pretrial, this defendant has a significant history of theft. I have this history going back to the 90s. He was convicted in the 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. All of these are theft convictions, Your Honor, burglary, breaking and entering. He also was arrested and found guilty of escape, and that was multiple times. I have at least 3 times. So he does present a risk of flight. And as we did hear, he does have the domestic violence conviction. So he is also a violent offender. The bond is already set at $1,000 surety. We're asking for it to remain as set with a stay away and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Price is 53 years old, and he is actually qualified for public defender's service since he has not been able to maintain any stable jobs. He does have odd jobs to take out trashes for food, and he may, even before 2 months when it was not too cold, he was able to do like painting buildings, and he was mowing the lawns. However, ever since it became really cold, only thing that he does to survive is he takes out the trashes to eat the food there. We would like to request for signature on bond, since $1,000 coupon is a no bond for him. He has no cash, nobody here who can help him out. So for him, that is actually no bond. He has a Salvation Army program that he was on the way to get into. So I would like him to continue with that program so that way he can get some stability. Thank you.
All right, at this time, defendant will receive $1,000, excuse me, surety bond. He's to stay away from that Publix on Piedmont Road and have no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. He will also be reset to that SAP calendar on January the 3rd.
What you say? So am I getting out?
Give Ms. Kim, will you give him a call to
Yes,
explain?
I'll give you a call to explain everything, okay?
All right, I believe that concludes the entire calendar. Ms.
I got staying to the 3rd of January. That's what she said? She gonna
All
call?
right, I'm sorry, courtroom 2, an announcement, any other announcements? I have that number 5 was released.
Dang.
Yeah, position 5 bonded out, Judge.
All right, so are you complete?
Yes, we're completed here in courtroom 2.
All right, take care. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Ms.
Thank you.
Bridgewater, will
Happy
you?
holidays to you.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Ms. Bridgewater, please review.
Okay, if we're ready to go over the calendar, once again, the reset date for the SAP calendar is January the 3rd, 2023. Position number 1 is going to the SAP calendar with a $6,000 good bond. Position 2, SAP calendar with a $4,000 total good bond. Position 3, SAP calendar with a $1,500 cash bond. Position 4, SAP calendar with a $6,000 good bond. As we know, 5 was released, therefore it's reset further notice. 6 is going to the SAP calendar with a $3,500 good bond. 7 SAP calendar with a $500 good bond. 8 SAP calendar with a $2,500 good bond. 9 SAP calendar with a $1,000 good bond. 10 is being reset further notice with a $5,000 total SOB through pretrial per judge. And 11 is reset further notice with a $4,000 SOB through the jail. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections? No?
All
Okay,
right,
well, we're
hearing
good.
none, we'll be in recess until tomorrow's SCA calendar where I will be presiding. Take care, everyone. See you all tomorrow.
Judge Williams and
Yes.
Ms. Bridgewater, is Judge Mincy in this week?